Last week, I had a horrible day. Nothing worked out as I wanted it to. I've always tried to be perfect, but last week I failed completely. I was super raw and vulnerable instead. And to my surprise, you actually showed interest and showed up. So come on, sit down, relax, let's have a coffee and figure out why. Today, I want to explore why that video connected. I realized that I can be the most helpful by not being a teacher or guru or perfect, but by being your work buddy, by showing up on your side as an equal, working through the same maths you are at the same time. Basically, I'm just 2 steps ahead, but I can share what worked for me and be there. In my opinion, we need real people now more than ever. Like with raw emotions and fumbles and vulnerability and a little bit chaos. In a time where AI slop is just taking over social media. But even if you're a real person telling a real story, if you come across a little bit too slick, too scripted, too robotic in a way, we as people, we pick up on that. We have kind of like a sixth sense for that, kind of like a Spidey sense. We notice like that there's something missing. Kind of like tiny micro movements, kind of a tremble in your voice or it's a pattern that is not really a natural speech pattern. And AI is not good at that. They're really good at being perfect, but in that case, being actually yourself with your flaws, with your fumbles, that's kind of a superpower. That doesn't mean that my stories or videos in the past were ever fake or fabricated or not me, but they were definitely way more scripted and presented in that way because I'm nervous. I get nervous, and I think if you ever sat in front of camera and tried to talk to a camera and tell a story that is cohesive and don't fumble around, you will know that is harder than you thought. That's at least for me the case. And so hitting record and really telling a story is hard for me. And I relied way more on the script and I glanced way more over to the script and I sounded way more robotic or, not myself. But last week, I didn't care for any of that. I just really hit record and went to town. And that was the most me, the most myself I've ever been on camera. Not the kind of attitude and mood I was in that is not like my normal go-to, but the way I talk and the way I like my speech pattern, that was definitely way more myself, the way I was presenting the story. In the past week, I decided I want to be more raw in my videos, still with a goal, with a direction, with a topic, but more myself. Leave some imperfections in, rely less on my script, on my bullet points. Rely more on my ability to just talk about the topic, getting the point across, and in that, while I'm doing that, honing that craft. I want to assist you to do the same thing, to be more yourself, to show you that nothing bad happens. The opposite is actually true. It actually is incredibly helpful to feel better in your own skin and your ability to connect with people, to tell stories, and to actually get better at it. So I always wanted to make helpful videos and showing you that you are not alone in your situation. And I receive comments from people also doing social media that they're expressing that they're in the same situation, in the same struggle. Thank you so much, by the way, for reaching out and taking the time to not only watch the video, but really leaving a comment. That means a lot to me, really. And to you, I can say being more myself isn't just a social media thing. You know, I think it shows up most here because here we have to do it the most, but it helps everywhere where you want to be more yourself, or in situations where you have to present something, or where you have to just speak, or to be very broad, just to have more or feel more comfortable being yourself, you know, like being more happy in your own skin. So what will happen next? I will focus more on showing you the messy middle, you know, showing the path to somewhere, showing what works for me on the way, and doing all that not from a position of a guru or some know-it-all, but from a position where you are at right now. I'm really just 2 steps ahead, and I can't tell you in the process, or by watching my videos, I can't tell you to be perfect. I cannot show you that. I don't know how that works. But I can show you how to keep being you, how to start being yourself, to grow and to navigate kind of a trash day and still delivering what you want to deliver and keeping your sanity. I can kind of act as your work buddy. I can encourage you to stop waiting for the right mood or right time to create something meaningful. Sometimes all we need is like a little nudge, a little push. We don't need like a high stakes, high cortisol situation. We don't need a drill sergeant shouting at us. And something that helps me a lot and has helped me a lot in the past is kind of like buddy doubling. And that's where this work buddy, or that I mentioned earlier, comes in, is something to keep you accountable. And I'm doing this now once a week as a stream. It's kind of like a get shit done stream. And that is something that I do for myself as much as I do it for you. I worked out that really helps me. It's kind of like a Pomodoro technique. That is like 25 minutes of really concentrated work followed by like a 5-minute guided rest. And by doing that, not alone, but virtually in a group, it creates this effect like like in a library, in a coffee shop, somewhere where you work alongside other people. And by stating what you're working on in the beginning and, like artificially having eyes on you, it creates kind of this accountability. And you keep being productive. You keep being in the zone without somebody yelling at you. So if that's something that is interesting for you, you're here at the right place. Welcome if you're here. I'm Johannes. I'm your host. I'm your buddy. I'm your work buddy. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm here. I'm just 2 steps ahead. And I'm happy to have you here and to show you what works for me and make your life just a little bit better, hopefully, and help you feeling better in your own skin and being yourself a little bit better. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. If you want, leave a comment telling me if you feel the same, if that is completely a different direction than what you thought is helpful for you. I really want to know. I can just say what works for me and from my point of view. So happy to get in touch with you. Until then, see you in the next week. See you maybe in the live stream. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful day. Take care.